welcome to Monday's episode of a Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. I am your host, Craig Fowler, and I am joined in my flat in deepest, darkest Gorbals by, for the very first time, Duncan McKay.
Hello.
And for the very second time, Craig Anderson.
I think it's the third time I've been here, Craig.
I do apologise.
You just got SBL started on your own show.
A really crucial contribution to make to the podcast, I think, would be how many times I've been here, and I think the listeners deserve to know.
What was the second time?
I don't know. I feel like I've been here twice anyway. Maybe.
I thought you were only here when it was you and Tom Watt, and then Tom left and me and you did a Patreon.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong. I think this is only the second time.
I feel like I've been here more than once, but maybe I've not.
It's just that homely, Craig. You just feel that welcome
environment.
27 cameras in your face.
all the tripods looking at you.
You've got like a lamp sitting over there, and it's like it confuses this one. So it's like you've got like like in films when they set up the schools and they've got like only actually got like 5 kids in the room, but they set the perspective so that it looks like you can see like 25. That's what's going on with all the furniture around the room. So it's maybe I'm just being disconcerted, and now my memories are. It's like a Mandela effect. I couldn't name the podcast. I just feel I've been on another one.
Feels he's been here. Maybe he has. Maybe I don't know about this.
Maybe it was a bit of concern now. Maybe it was a pre-filming one potentially. I feel like I've been here more than once, but
a pre-filming one. You were here, possibly.
Yes, but
yeah, anyway, this is riveting chat to start us off.
It's just like listening to the lower league podcast, and I can make that joke because I know you won't be listening.
It was with Graham Thillis during the cycling championship. It was on the last day of it because he'd been working at it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Nil, Hearts nil.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah, it's weird. It's harder to remember that because I didn't have to edit a video of it afterwards. So it's just the podcast isn't in my mind.
You don't keep a spreadsheet of everyone that's entered your house and the amount of times they do it.
I do actually keep a spreadsheet of how many podcasts people have done, but not how many times they've entered my house. No.
Okay. Well, maybe add that tab.
We'll try to think of a link here. There's not really any spreadsheet link I can think of when it comes to Hibs 2, Kilmarnock 2. So let's just go
maybe it was the second time the Hibs have gone to Easter Road this year. To Rugby Park. Well done. Thank you.
See you later, Duncan. Right, Hibs 2, Kilmarnock 2. We may as well start off with this one. I had 4 goals, and fans of both clubs are with me right now. Duncan, you're a Hibs fan. Craig, you're a Kelly fan. Neither of you were at the game, which is a bit of a blow, but I take it if not seen the match and at least watched the highlights, read up on it a lot, you know your teams very well. Who would like to go first? No, actually, I'll take a run through for anybody who didn't see the game. Kelly took a first half lead through a Dylan Vente OG, which was slightly controversial. We'll come on to that soon enough, Craig. Matty Kennedy doubles the advantage with a kind of very similar type of goal to the first one. Joel Newell with an incredible finish to bring Hibs back into the game. Then Corey and Dabla sent off for the home side after VAR review. Maizian Malida.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was close enough.
Yeah.
But it was good for you.
Equalises, and then Christian Doig misses a big chance at the end to defeat his old side. So let's start with you, Duncan, because Nick Montgomery is a man who, by the day, is losing more support from the fans. Was this a case of a kind of big result coming back from 2 goals down, or does this further just add fuel to the doubters because it's another victory? It's another game. Christ, I can't talk so far this episode. It's another game in which Hibs don't win.
I suppose it depends if you're a hater or not. And I can say after the second goal went in, the text that came from me was like, I want him gone. I want him out of here. By virtue of coming back, it makes it look better than throwing it away. Like the narrative makes it seem like Hibs were hard done by, but then again, you look at the XG. No, not like the Kilmarnock were the better team. Again, I don't know why I brought XG. That's not normally my thing I do, but
it's festering through all of us.
I know. Yes, just turn into like some sort of football hipster, like all our critics accuse us of being. In that regard, yeah, it's much better to come back from 2-0 down than to throw away a 2-0 lead. The goals that we concede just speak volumes to the fact that Hibs should have signed a permanent centre half. I'm trying to remember what exactly what year this was, but it is now we're now getting to the end of like the 6th transfer window where there was an opportunity to do this, and we've not. And that speaks to, there are bigger, where I bore myself every time I talk about it, but there are bigger problems at Hibs than just Nick Montgomery, but he's also possibly the easiest person to jettison in this regard. And so it's going to be an interesting few weeks. He probably has to get a win against St Mirren coming up this weekend. After I think it's almost a knock-on certainty that Brendan Rodgers is going to get his first ever win at Easter Road 3 days after that, and then you've got the Scottish Cup game away to Inverness. It on paper shouldn't be too much of a struggle, but everything would suggest that's going to be a game that Hibs will toil in. But so that I said, there's the flaws, and you saw that with the defending for the first goal. We get the controversy. The second goal is unbelievable. Like, when you look at where Kilmarnock gain control of the ball in midfield, I've seen that goal so many times. That something just happens and there's just a mess, and I just don't. Yeah, like can we stop playing Dylan Levitt that deep? Yeah, I think that's one of the most obvious things you could do to improve Hibs' chances. But we seem absolutely wedded to this idea that he's got to play some sort of deep-lying quarterback role when he's got neither the physicality nor the defensive nous to play that role that deep, because he's actually getting in the way of being able to defend. And actually, when you see the chance that Vassell got in the second half, a real chance to have sealed the game, Hibs were very lucky to. In reality, the Deutsch chance at the end probably should have won it for her, but in reality, that game should have been away from Hibs.
At least Montgomery, because you can maybe say it was still a 4-4-2, but I think in terms of position, and Marcondes is more of a number 10 and plays like a number 10. So This was Hibs for the first time under Montgomery, pretty much playing a new formation, which is not a huge deviation from what we've seen before, but at least it's a more kind of out-and-out 4-2-3-1.
I think when every meal is porridge, suddenly like cornflakes looks really appetising. What would be my...
As a big cornflakes man and not a big porridge man, I can certainly appreciate that analogy.
Well, I think that's where we go. And I can understand the rigidity that he was trying to bring in, but it's Scottish football, man. You cannot be starting this. You cannot come in mid-season and just impose your will on a squad of players and all that thing. Like, it's the biggest thing about being a club of Hibs and Aberdeen and Hearts size is you've got to, and it's a common phrase that I keep using all the time, but you've got to treat the world as it is, not how you would like it to be. And that's what's so frustrating, is that you've been so wedded to a formation that you don't have the players for, and also doesn't get the best out of your better players as well. It could have been a lot worse, but that's not where Hibs need to be at the moment, given the club keep fucking reminding you the level of investment that's gone into this team and where Hibs are. Can anyone actually make the case that Hibs are much further on than when the Gordons arrived? And I think the answer to that is not.
Got nicer hospitality.
Got nicer hospitality, yeah, but we're also using that money to spend on players that we don't play. So give big wages to them. So yeah, I don't know.
There was another game of Megwa looking like the jump from playing very well to Airdrieonians to playing well for Hibs is just a bit too much for him at this point in time, and another game of Eli Johan just not really doing too much.
Yep, those are both absolute fair points. And again, if you had any sort of proper sporting director, which apparently, director of football, which is what apparently we have, you wouldn't be having to rely on...
Oh, you mean Lee Johnson's pal, the manager?
Yeah, the man they got to appoint him. Yeah, that really well thought out process, and who could not see that? There's a magpie tendency, I think, going on at Hibs, where it's just shiny thing after shiny thing, which explains why we keep signing midfielders and forwards when actually an element of that, like, we shouldn't have gone to Greece all those years ago playing Darren McGregor. He was not good enough to start, and it's still never been solved. And you're still there, relying on Paul Hanlon and another, and it's Will Fish at the moment. But it's not glamorous, but that is what we'll get. That'll be the difference between finishing sixth and fourth. Really, is a really good centre half.
Craig, Kelly were 2-0 up with two very, very Kilmarnock goals. Danny Armstrong putting a ball into the back post, and either a Hibs player or a Kelly player putting it in the back of the net. But this is kind of goes, I don't know what you think about this. I can't remember if I've talked to you much about it at all, but this kind of goes to what I've been said about Kelly a lot this season, and that they're in fourth place, and for a team that could have been relegated last season, was just up from the Championship. It's obviously significant progress. It's if you're going to end the league table now, you would maybe say that Derek McInnes is a very strong shout for Manager of the Year. And yet, I still feel like they've left a lot of points on the table this season, and this is another example of that. They're 10 points behind Hearts, but it feels like they should be right there with Hearts.
I think, I can see where that's coming from, because there have been very few games I've gone to this season where I've come away and thought we deserve to lose, or many that we deserve not to win, almost. And there's been a lot of points. It was funny, someone said on Twitter the other day or after this, that's 11 points we've dropped in given away in the last few minutes of games. I looked up and that's not true. I mean, if games had stopped in 80 minutes compared to 90 minutes, we're 1 point better off from the last 10 minutes of games, because we have scored late winners against Celtic, against Aberdeen. Both Hibs games where we drew both Dundee games where we drew 2 each. We were 1-0 down in one of them and 2-1 up inside the last 10 minutes. And the other one, we went 2-1 ahead in the last 10 minutes. So there's been an element.
So basically, the entertainers. That's all you're saying.
There's been an element of, yes, we have left points out there. Absolutely. Motherwell away being a prominent one. The Dundee one I spoke about in this game. We did also fight back from 2-0 down against Hibs at home earlier in the season, which to me was the result that kick-started the season, to be honest. So I think it's very easy to be annoyed at this stuff, because you can see the potential of what's out there, but you're also looking at saying, like, as you said, there are still massive gaps in this team, and you can't expect to win every week with, for example, no central midfield. Where what I mean by that, and he was right to do it, but he obviously gambled on this game on Hibs playing a 4-4-2, and he just went with McKenzie and Watson in the middle of the park, dropped Polworth so he could get an extra attacker in the team. It worked till it didn't, but you can blame the red card for that. With Brad Lyons
and a ridiculous finish from Jonio.
It was incredible. Yeah. I mean,
I still don't understand how he's done that on his weaker right foot and it's not going a mile over the bar.
Two very good goals, but the point is, Brad Lyons goes out injured, and all of a sudden you've just got nothing there, because Liam Donnelly, I'm not a fan, but I think if Liam Donnelly was fit every week, he would be more than capable of being a backup, and he would play himself into that. But you can't trust him. He was on the bench here. You're left without really many options in the middle of the park. Whether there will be an incoming now that we've let a player out on loan, I don't know. But that was it. So there is a definite frustration, and certainly you go away thinking we should be 6, 7, 8, 9 points better off. But yes, we've also probably been lucky at times. It does feel this one's particularly frustrating, because I think at the point where I think Hibs started the game quite well, and Marcondes in particular was getting himself into a lot of good positions, but then Kelly took a wee bit of control, sussed Hibs out, which I think is quite easy to do with this Hibs team, and got the goals. You mentioned the controversy of the first one. I think it's very similar to the third Dundee goal, in the sense that I can see why someone would give a foul for that. Personally, I think it's soft defending, and if the referee doesn't give it live, I think it's absolutely correct not to step in and award that. But you can see why Hibs would be a wee bit annoyed, because you can certainly see Ndaba's definitely leveraging a little bit on Vente there.
For quite a while. Yeah. But that's what you want to do.
Yeah, but so there's definitely an element to which that can happen.
I was going to talk about that one, because we'll come on to Ndaba Red soon enough, but that was kind of one I wanted to focus on, and just kind of, we can talk about this now so we don't necessarily talk about it later on the show, because it comes up in other games. So let's just get out of the way and not have this being a running theme of the podcast, because there was a shirt pull there. There's also the kind of shirt pulls in the box that have happened with Rangers games, and people said, why are these not being called up elsewhere, and they're being called up in these matches?
I really like those people, the most interesting people in the world. Right.
But there was also the kind of push off in the Dundee game, with Michael Mellon pushing off on James Penrice in the build up to their third goal right after Livy got themselves back in the game. That wasn't looked at by VAR, or it was looked at, but they just decided that's not enough for us. And then there was Benny Beningame Miofsky one in the Aberdeen game. And again, it's just like the whole thing where it's like you can't get consistency with VAR. Yeah. So if you can't get consistency with VAR, again, I've asked this so many times, what's the fucking point?
Well, I think, if you're not going to mention it, I think the Aberdeen one's different in the sense that it's annoying as a foul because he clips him, whether it means it or not. But those two, I think, are more on that borderline of if the ref gives it, then it's not going to get overturned. But if he doesn't give it, I don't think it should be either, which I think is jumping about for you, but it's what should apply to the red card as well, to be honest. And that's the frustration, because you get yourself 2-0 up. there's a fantastic goal from Newell, which you can't really legislate for. I think Hibs were at desperation mode by that point. They'd also made a triple sub. They're putting, and I mean, I like Doidge. I thought it was a big part of us staying up last season, but they're at desperation point when they're putting Christian Doidge on in 2024.
He's been better this season.
No, but he's not. He's clearly not Montgomery's man. He's not clearly someone he wants to be playing.
No.
So you're like,
maybe should be playing him more.
So when I, because I said I had a really bad sore throat on Saturday, so I wasn't at the game, but I was following it, and when I saw that come on, I was like, right, this is looking better for us from the sense of like Hibs maybe running out of ideas, and then they score a brilliant goal.
And Hibs chasing the game is not necessarily indicative of anything actually happening.
But then they were definitely in the ascendancy in the lead up to the red card. So I'm reluctant to say the red card has changed the game, but it definitely obviously makes it much more likely they're going to score, which they did. And Kelly, you've said Chuck have given away games, but they are generally good at seeing out games, so you don't know what would have happened differently. But there's obviously the big chance from Vassell, and I think he's the big talking point with the support at the moment. Obviously Greg Stewart's come in, so you've got an extra forward option. He was suspended for this game, kind of carried over from his days in India. But the issue with Vassell to me is I think opposition supporters absolutely hate playing against him. He's a handful. He's entertaining. Every time you watch back Kelly's highlights, every single chance we create, basically he seems to be in the middle of it somewhere, like just getting himself in the way. But he does have a tendency to not score when the moments are there.
He's your Doidge. Yeah. I mean that's the not.
Imagine watching both of them paired together for 6 months. But he's a big chance at Ibrox where he goes through it 0-0 1-on-1. And it's a great save from Butland, but a better striker, a better finisher scores that goal. He had another one of the other games, and then he's got that chance there. And it does point to like, what do you want from your centre forward? To me, you shouldn't drop him. To me, he's a very important part of the team, and he's a good leader and all the rest of it. But other people want more goals out their forwards, and obviously Stewart there now makes that more likely. But all of that said, it's a very strong team, and there's not much to moan about, which is why people start relying on things like that.
Yeah, to moan about.
Coming on to the red card, I guess you're going to ask about that.
Yeah. I thought it was harsh.
Yeah,
I would be livid if it was the other way around. Yeah.
If again, it's one of those. I think it's a yellow card, and I think if the referee gave it as a red live, you could sort of understand sticking with it. But for them again to intervene on that, I find it really difficult to see where. I think it was Greg Aitken on the recent Sky documentary from like October or whenever it was talking about this line of intervention. When do we decide to go? I really don't understand what Nick Walsh.
Yeah, because the referee is already taking the action.
He's right in front of him. He plays the advantage. He goes back. He gives a yellow card. He's made a decision.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think this as well when it comes to the VAR stuff. Like, because a big thing in judging red cards is excessive force, slowing down.
Everything looks excessive.
Yeah, slowing down a clip and like having it in like frame by frame or still images, and then like how is that better to judge than a referee who's standing 3 yards away from it and can judge force a lot better than a camera can?
So the thing they say on the VR protocols is that slow motion can only be used to determine the point of contact, so to show where is the contact. But the problem is that still in itself looks worse than the tackle is to me, because if you take a freeze frame and see Ndaba's studs kind of against the ankle of
but you've got no judge.
Tavares. But you can tell when you watch it live, it's a glancing blow. It's not like hitting into them. It's like his foot. I think it maybe catches his boot and sort of goes upwards and glides across his ankle. No doubt it's a sore one.
Yeah.
And as
I think he got caught in that. That was the point Lee Miller was making on the Sports and podcast today, was that he thinks that on grass that wouldn't have happened, in terms of that his boot gets caught in the Astro as well, which makes it look a lot worse.
It's
that's what he's fucking getting then, eh? That's what he's fucking getting.
Oh, we're going to come on and talk about some grass pitches this after. But the thing that got me is like Charlie Mulgrew was on Sports Scene. It's a thing about terminology, because the commentator said the same thing, talking about how he thought it was a red card, but he kept saying it was a reckless challenge. But a reckless challenge is a yellow card. That's what reckless is. It has to be dangerous. I don't think that challenge was dangerous.
He won the ball as well. Again, that's not the
in the sense that there wasn't intent to hurt, and I don't think there was a danger of a serious injury from that challenge beyond a freak
anything
thing.
like a freak.
So it was pretty frustrating. I suspect the club will appeal it, and I really don't actually know what will happen with that. But it's a bit of a blow because Ndaba's been a very, very important player, been a very good player, and he just keeps having these wee spells out of the team, and we can't replace him. And so it was a bit of a frustrating one. As I say, I think Hibs were getting in the ascendancy at that point, having come back. It was pretty similar in the feeling to the 2-2 game I described back in September or whenever it was, which was Montgomery's first game, I think. But it's frustrating, and I think I'm with you in the sense that I think Kelly, with a different turn of events, could be sitting 2 or 3 points behind Hearts, but also at the same time, I'm not exactly going to get to the end of the season and be really annoyed if we finish fourth, which I think we're more than capable of doing, whether we can hang on with it. Another thing.
Speaking of Hearts, let's go to Tynecastle next. Hearts 2, Aberdeen 0. Bojan Miloski has the ball in the back of the net with an excellent finish in the first half. However, as we mentioned already, it was ruled out for a foul in the build-up. Hearts then take the lead in the second half through a George Grant penalty before Lauren Shanklin seals the points with an absolute belter. As I wrote in my Herald column, which was out today, I've done a full 180 on Naismith. You kind of have to when you just keep winning every single bloody week. You can't just sit there and go, well, some people do, but you shouldn't just sit there and go, oh, I don't like this manager. I like to be proven right. Hearts, again, it was still another very Naismith game. Hearts were rubbish in the first half. Hearts have only scored 3 goals at Tynecastle this season in the first half. But in most games, they get better in the second period, and after the first goal, when Hearts just dominated. And this Hearts team, they never dominate for 90 minutes, but they do the basics very well. They defend very well. They battle very well. They're disciplined in their shape. They're disciplined in the fact that they don't pick up a lot of needless cards, and they just kind of find ways to win every single week, it feels like, for the time being. I think I wrote this in a column and I've already blanked on it. I think it's in the last 13 Scottish Premiership games, Hearts have won 10 of them, drawn 2 and lost 1. Oh no, sorry, lost 2 and drawn 1. Lost the home to Rangers, away to Aberdeen, drawn with Ross County, won the other 10. That's just an incredible run.
It is, annoyingly. What I find with Naismith is that it works for him and it works against him, is that I don't think he gets too high or too low. So I think when Hearts are going through a bad spell, it looks like he is slightly diffident, or he is like, there's nothing about him that in the way he talked as a player and stuff, he has incredible self-belief, like he has confidence in himself and self-belief, and I think he's carrying that on into management. The problem is that when you need to do that as a member of a squad versus when you are the manager of a football club, sometimes you need to say stuff that you don't necessarily mean, as a manager. And he doesn't really get into that. He doesn't really seem to do the game playing. So he's, even at the moment, when you're on this tremendous run, he's still talking about, they need to get better and stuff. And I think he genuinely believes that, because I think
they still can get better.
Yeah. And some of the stuff you've had to watch has been bad, but at the same time, the results kind of speak for themselves. But the converse of that is when you're on a bad turn, it looks like he doesn't necessarily care a lot, or he's again, Scottish football love. Fans are increasingly loving to throw the baby out the bathwater every single occasion. There's no sense of proportion with what's going on, which is why we like the game as well. Like there's an element of that, but I think that's what is increasingly becoming clear, is that he's not going to get carried away, but at the same time he's not going to have a massive panic about when things aren't going so well. And then I think that's kind of seems to me to be transferring on to Hearts on the pitch. When they went 1-0 up, Aberdeen did very little after that. Like there's a kind of feeling that there's
Aberdeen's very brittle confidence.
Yeah, but I think there's in this run, and again, because you win, it's kind of this post facto rationalisation of everything that happens. So, of course, but I don't really get the sense that once Hearts go 1-0 up, a lot of the time, unless you're playing Spartans, that you feel like your other teams are going to get back into it.
Well, the Spartans thing, which I do, again, bring it back to the column, just everybody just please read it and please subscribe, so journalists can actually get paid instead of just reading everything for free. There was somebody on Twitter who said, I used to read your stuff back in the day, really enjoyed it, it's the same, it's not as accessible now. Stop just reading it for free then. There's a reason
do you work for free?
There's a reason the previous company was like, here's a redundancy offer. like talking about the Hearts and the Spartans one. That was what I was saying. The Naismith all season has brought everybody back for corners.
Yeah,
and for the Spartans game, they changed it and he left one player up because obviously like playing a League 2 team, maybe be a bit more attacking. And Hearts conceded their first goal from a corner all campaign. So like that, he's made tweaks to the side that have worked. I would say that for the start
I'd
of this
maybe
game,
not put a 41-year-old in goals and maybe had a chance of saving it, but that's just me.
Hey, very good save in the first half. He made a tweak to start this game. He changed the formation. It's been the 3-5-2 for a good few months now, and I think that really kind of helped Hearts. Probably saved Hearts' season when earlier on he wanted to continue what he was doing last year, play the 4-4-2 that he did when he first came in, and that just wasn't really working, mainly because Josh Donnelly wasn't there to partner Lawrence Shankland. So he changed it to the 3-5-2, made him a lot better defensively, got the results going. And then you see against Dundee that there are games where you need to maybe go a bit more attacking, get more attacking players onto the pitch. But I thought for this one, and I said it with the Patreon I done with Joel last week, that I thought that Aberdeen would come and attack because Robson had to get a result. Because if he loses that game, I thought he was out. He's not been out at the time of recording, and I'll get to a rant about that very soon. But I thought he's going to go and he's going to try to win this game. And Aberdeen pushed up quite high, pressed quite aggressively in the first half, and Hearts just couldn't really find a way out. And also as well, the team seemed too slanted towards trying to get the ball to Dexter Lembekiza, who was excellent. And he was excellent when he came on against Spartans. And then he was obviously much more impressive in the game against Dundee, considering the quality of opposition. But it just felt like it was just like, okay, let's give the ball to him. Whereas in the second half, he said they made a tweak. I couldn't see any tweak to the system in terms of shape. But that's probably what he meant in terms of just sharing.
Stop passing it to him all the time.
Sharing the wealth around. Alex Cochrane came into the game a lot more in the second period. Hearts were edging it until the penalty, and then after that, it was just complete domination.
And what a relief you must be feeling that Lawrence Shankland has returned from his deathbed, his illness, a miraculous recovery, to make it back. Because, geez, I mean, I think we were all worried for him, were we not?
Well, yeah, alarm bells were ringing.
Yeah, that he chose not to play against Spartans. Yeah.
But I think the thing with Naismith is you think of the managers that he's worked under, and you're looking at like Jim Jeffries being the one he started out with, Walter Smith, David Moyes, Steve Clark at the national team as a coach as well, and Craig Levine as well. There are certainly elements of all of those people in his game. He's certainly not he's
a chippy fucker, basically.
Well, it's a personality, but I think he was like that before he was, he was like that when he was 17. But when he was, in terms of he's not an all-out attack manager, but he's a very shrewd manager in terms of, building shape first and letting everything come from that. But it doesn't mean his teams are boring, because I think of our Hearts, you never get a boring afternoon watching Hearts, I wouldn't say. And he's starting to put together. I mean, they should be. Hearts have got, I would guess, the third biggest budget in the league. They're spending a lot of money.
It's not. I don't think it's that much difference between Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen, but yeah, it might be third.
And they are starting to walk the walk with that, and that's what you would hope for. And the other two are being obviously left behind in that respect. But Hearts are now as far ahead of Kelly as they are. Like the gap to Kelly is the same as the gap to Rangers. So it's a substantial. They're really putting themselves out in front. Now, of course, you'll be haunted by last season and the fact that they threw it away.
No chickens.
But I don't think there's a team that can do it this time. Like Aberdeen, Aberdeen must be 22 points behind Hearts or something like that.
19.
Is that 19?
They do have 3 games in hand, but still.
No. And then Hibs, I just don't think under this manager have got. I mean, we'll say that the Aberdeen manager who did it last time, but I just don't think they have it. And Naismith is obviously, I know he was manager for kind of the last few games of last season, but he's got his feet under the table. He seems to know what he's doing. It would be a surprise to me if they don't. It's also a differently built team in terms of the fact that if Hearts do go through a streaky patch, they can go into games going like, let's just keep a clean sheet and get a result and stop the rot. Whereas last season's team just stopped being able to defend once Craig Halkett went out. They couldn't defend any cross balls. That's a massive improvement in the season. I think by the end of the campaign, they might have been worst in the top flight in terms of goals conceded for set pieces in the season. They must be best. Like totally, they've not conceded at all in the league yet for a corner. At least I don't know about free kicks, but certainly not for a corner.
Are we now wanting to tee you up for we're not going to make excuses from Barry Robson and then a litany of excuses? I thought that was
he does it all the time.
I know, I mean, he's a slaver at the best of times, but But I thought that was just
I don't understand at all what the Aberdeen board are doing. Right, so they have my sympathy with them last to a point, and it lasts to these 2 points. One, hiring them in the first place, because I said at the end of last season, I said it on the V for the Terrace live show, I was like, Aberdeen and Barry Robson's going to be a bad appointment. I think I said he would be out by the end of the year, which ended up being proven wrong, but it should have been out by the end of the year. And I knew it'd be bad because a club of Aberdeen's size, especially these days when they're spending so much money, and it's not like it was 10, 15 years ago when a lot of basically top flight teams, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, would be shopping in a slightly elevated market, but not that much difference. Now it's a case of them spending like 500,000, 400,000. Like I think cumulatively, like this past summer, they must have spent like £2 million at least, depending on how much Leighton Clarkson cost, which nobody really seems to know. I was told like I think it was ABZ's podcast said that it was apparently around about 400,000, but as Tony said, like that sounds like a lot of shite, because it sounds like, considering his age and last season and the kind of his reputation, Liverpool would be wanting more.
Well, it is potentially that is what they've paid so far, and there's a not inconsiderable amount of lots of
that might be a good point. But
that's not a £400,000 deal if you're tied to paying significantly more.
They're a team that will be going most games, opponents will be sitting in again. So to have such a negative manager, like he built that winning run off of the same football, but it just never seemed to have any sustainability for me. However, you come into this season, it's a type of formation that, although they got the same amount of points as Hearts last season, they did perform a lot better game by game. And I think that was down to Robson's style of football and knowing how to set up a defence. I was going to say, I know they've not been great this season in the league, but in those type of games, to be able to make sure that you make yourself tough to beat. And then the same with keeping them on past the cup final, because to win a cup final, it's probably best if you've got a manager who's defensively minded, if you're playing Rangers. But now that's all done, what are they waiting for? It doesn't make any sense. He's not getting any better. The team's not getting any better. What are they doing? I don't get it.
To me, it's like, I wonder if they're clinging on to his performances in Europe, like, because they were. It wasn't just like they beat Eintracht, and you can call that a dead rubber. But in every single one of those European performances, beyond the two where they absolutely blew it against Hacken, especially at Pataudry, but the ones in the group stage, they were very good, and they could easily have got through that group. They were not that far off getting through that group. So I wonder if part of it has been that idea in their heads. But you're right. They shouldn't have. It's very easy to say now. They shouldn't have appointed him. I feel most people could see. I believe the club even knew it was a bit of a flash in the pan, a bit of a kind of, like lightning in a bottle kind of thing, like just not something that was going to be replicable. But it's also very hard to do it. Yeah. But you're being paid like how much Alan Burrows and other people are on at Aberdeen. They're being paid good money to make tough decisions. And the tough decision there was to say, thanks very much, Barry. You are going to leave with a glowing CV here. You are going to be a shoe-in for the next decent-sized job that comes up either here or even something in England. But we want to go a different way here. We want to get our guy in, and we want, for the first time since Derek McInnes was in charge, to appoint an actual experienced manager who has done things at a reasonable level. And they've instead took the easy route. And sometimes easy route's the right route, but I think sometimes you have to be bold.
I think their thinking must have been around, if we don't give him the job and he goes on and has success elsewhere, or we bungle the appointment, which they given the litany of successful managers in Scottish football, makes it very difficult. But yeah, you're right. It was the easy option, and very rarely is the easy option also the right thing to do. Like, it's very, sometimes it is, but very very rarely is that the case, and they are kind of paying for that now. And yeah, I think there's an element of the performance in Europe were fine because that's how they want to play, against teams that are much better than them. But again, they're not getting the results against Celtic and Rangers in the league to even justify that way of playing, overall.
If you want to play defensively, you have to have good defenders, and I don't think they do. I don't think any of the defenders they signed in the summer are good.
Yeah, but that relies on having an aligned strategy of who you're buying and the manager who's going to deploy them. And I think so many clubs in Scotland don't have that. The ones that have that position where they even have a sporting director, a lot of them still rely on just your manager in his contact book. So yeah,
there's four centre backs at Kelly that I don't think I would swap any single one of them for any of the centre backs at Aberdeen, and that's damning for a club who've spent £600,000-700,000 on centre backs this summer.
Right, let's move on to our third game because we're already well past half an hour, and that is Livingston 1, Dundee 4. Amadou Bakayoko gave the visitors the lead. Andrew Shinnie then missed a penalty. Livingston's missed penalties this season. Jesus, honestly, like your team's struggling so badly and you can't even score for 12 yards. That's just an absolute nightmare for them. Then McCowan puts Dundee 2-0 up in the second half. McCowan is then sent off. Livingston score a penalty through Tete Yengi. But then immediately, right for kickoff, Dundee score through Zach Robinson. And then Michael Mellon, the hero of the hour, caps off a terrific debut with a fourth. He had a goal, 2 assists. And I can see why Gary's optimistic, positive about Dundee's European chances, because if Mellon can, I mean, you often see players coming in and they're excellent on their debut and then they don't look anything like that the rest of their entire career with one club. But if he could, if he's as good as advertised for this brief clip, a very kind of, it reminds me of Mika Bireth coming off the bench for, and it kind of, he also kind of reminds me of a similar type of player, maybe not as much power, but he's got a bit of power, a bit of mobility, and clearly has decent finishing ability as well. If they've got that type of player at Dens Park, then yeah, why would you not think that Dundee can maybe sneak in and get fifth?
Can I offer one caveat?
Mm-hmm.
It was Livingston Football Club.
Fair.
Yeah. Like, I think, no, I mean, obviously, I would not look impressive out there, but I think I would maybe not have looked as bad as some other players on the.
You could maybe play centre half for Livingston, it wouldn't have looked any worse.
I like to think that I would not have, like Penrice, just played the ball back into play when trying to make a clearance, for the opening goal. I would like to think. I think I would be very meat and potatoes, and that is straight out for a corner. That's fine. That's a problem we can deal with after this. But yeah, dreadful. Let's talk about Dundee because that's more fun because who can be bothered now with David Martindale's like laments about finance and all that. But yeah, Dundee finally are stable and exciting, which must be there must be something. There must be some Dundee fans there must be
rumours today coming from a Liverpool fan with about 50,000 followers on Twitter saying that Owen Beck's coming back to Dundee. That's their source.
Literally,
it might not be happening.
It's literally a binary thing. Either he's come back to Dundee or he's stayed in Liverpool. So
to be fourth choice.
Yes, yeah.
So that'd be excellent for them as well. They can get him back. So they've got issues at centre half with the players they've got out, and Dodgson again not looking like he might be the answer. Again, just such I called him rash. Yeah, I called him rash after the game against Hearts, and that's what he just continued to look like. Just a rash thing to do. And Newbley beat him a few times, and Livingston fans were like, oh, if that's Newbley coming back to his best with their game against Ross County on Tuesday night, if they win that, they're right back into the relegation battle. But it's maybe just Dodgson just being rubbish and just he's not seen Newbley before. Everybody else has seen Newbley before, and he's like, what does this guy do?
I suspect it's the latter.
Yeah.
Judging by that performance, and yeah, it would be. I mean, if they could get that Beck deal done before tomorrow night's game, that is suddenly feels like a momentum shifter, and it'd be a huge. If Dundee win against Aberdeen, I think we can start talking about Dundee as being not necessarily like top. I mean, it could be a top 6 challenger, not necessarily the real deal, but like it's a bizarre proposition for the first time in years to talk about decades, centuries to talk about Dundee as a stable club making sensible decisions and doing things the right way. You're like, I'm not sure I like this.
Yeah, it's strange, very disconcerting. But if they get Beck back obviously if they get Beck back for the rest of the season, that's huge. But even this game, because it is, as you say, it's a big game in terms of kind of laying out the European credentials. And Beck coming back would give them a real shot in the arm going forward, because you saw it against Hearts when McCowan went off not long in the second half as he's kind of started to feel his hamstring a little. And they will miss him for this game. Luke McCown's kind of, I think, flown under the radar as maybe one of the best players in the Scottish top flight this season, at the very least outside of the Old Firm. He was maybe the best player in the park at Almondvale, but he's going to miss the next game for a daft red card. And it's so daft because he was lucky that he wasn't sent off right away.
Yeah.
Because the first challenge isn't a yellow, but he sarcastically claps the ref when the ref is showing him a yellow card. And it's like, I know a lot of refs don't like to do the whole thing, I've just booked you, so I'm just going to book you again immediately and then send you off.
I'd fucking love it if I was.
But
That'd be my only.
You've seen it happen, and it could have easily happened there.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'd ever get into reffing, is that double yellow.
Get away.
Yeah.
I said the new one with the VR of like, oh, I'm not booking you anymore.
Yes.
But it's an Ed instead. But the thing for me though with Livingston, I would say I thought there was a little bit more of a sign of life from them in this game. I think defensively, as you said, a mess. But
I think that's the issue though, is that like they are showing a bit more signs of life, but the Livy before, and they've still got a lot of these guys in like midfield, like guys that have been there for a while as well, and they've got the ability to battle. And we've talked about Newbley and their problems up front this season, but the biggest problem is just that at the back they just give away so many cheap goals because their defenders are a shit. And their keepers are shit.
Well, they brought McGovern in for this game, but I think stick with George. I know he's made mistakes, but McGovern's 39.
I think
And look, all those 39 years as they try to get down to that fourth goal.
Barely played a game in years as well. Like, it's not like someone who's been, consistently keeping himself warm, but they're just. I think Livingston will beat Ross County. I think they'll.
Hope so.
I think they're just that.
Not just for the Derek Adams angle of it, just also for the fact it'd be good to have a proper kind of battle at the bottom.
I think there's been a result coming for them a wee bit in the sense that they're not, like, even though they got beat 4-1, I don't think it wasn't like they got battered in the whole game. Dundee deserved to win, absolutely.
And if they start scoring penalties, then they might finally get a victory.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned the Kelly and getting away with things like Kelly leaving points out there. We got away with one there because they missed a penalty with Bruce Anderson, missed one with like 5 minutes to go. They've left points because again, finally scored their second penalty when it was to go to 2-1, but that making it 1 each is a big difference to the game in terms of like the moment, whereas making it 2-1, you've still got a chance to get back in
if you don't do something really stupid immediately from kickoff.
But I actually think that first penalty, when I saw it the first time, I was like, how on earth is VR intervened to give that? But I hadn't actually realised the referee had given a free kick to begin with. And I think once you see that, it's like, the first touch on his back is definitely on the line.
Yeah.
But when does the touch become the foul? Because I don't, obviously putting your hand on someone's back is not so it's a very tricky one to determine. I'm actually really surprised the fourth goal was allowed to stand, to be honest, if Bakayoko in an offside position, because it was given offside on the pitch. And then Bakayoko definitely jumped over the ball. So if he's onside.
No, he didn't jump over the ball.
Oh, he jumped in the vicinity of the ball as the goalkeeper's going down. I think there was more, it was much more in that than the one which they had disallowed at Rugby
Was it
Park
not a kind of case of the fact because he was maybe even outside the width of the posts when he jumped over, like he didn't jump over it, like the ball was about 2 yards
to his right,
kind of inside, and he was outside of it. Had it been the other side when he was more central, he's maybe more in the goalie's vision, and then you could maybe say more. But he was kind of. I think he was a bit more peripheral.
I just think being that in that proximity to the ball and jumping like that, to me, when it's been given live as an offside, to me that, and I know that's probably why they sent the ref over, but to me, the one at Rugby Park last week was clearly a mistake, like, but there was no VR in that case. But for this one, I was surprised. I mean, it made no difference to the game. I thought when I saw it, I was like, all right, he must not have been in an offside position. But again, we're talking about a thing that doesn't matter.
Well, it was the third goal being given was when it went to VAR. I was like, well, when I saw it, I was like, and then knowing was, I was like, I kind of thought once it goes to VAR, I was like, I'm sure that's going to be ruled out. Like that sort of like, you're like,
wait,
can't believe
the third goal. But you mean VAR having a look at it? Because the ref wasn't sent over.
Because you were like, is that different? When does a hand become a push? And what?
He also put his second hand on him, was it?
But again, the second hand was felt incidental, and I think Penrice was probably more off balance than anything. I mean, in the end, it was all academic and actually quite funny, but
stick with comedy. It was really funny.
Exactly.
You say no, you don't get a good game on plastic pitches, but two high scoring games in the weekend. So
there you go. But it won't be
take that, haters.
They won't be the top flight next season because Killie will get a grass pitch, Livingston will go down, Dundee United will come up, nobody else will come up, and then they'll ban them. There's my prediction.
We'll see.
Right, let's go to McDermott Park, where it was St Johnstone 1, Motherwell 1. St Johnstone took an early lead through Ryan McGowan, scoring what I can only describe as a typical Ryan McGowan goal. And then Motherwell equalised in the first half through Theo Bair. Motherwell were the better team for the majority of this one, as admitted by both managers. And can already see some St Johnstone fans starting to get a bit vexed with Craig Levein.
I'm shocked that a man who's won fuck all in his career, a player and manager, might not actually be doing anything good for that club.
There's got to be loads of good Scottish football players and managers who haven't won anything, because if you've not played for Celtic or Rangers, chances are you're not going to win anything.
Maybe, but I don't really care. I just like to mention the fact that Craig,
nothing to do with it. I just wanted to mention it.
Craig Levein has never touched silver.
Okay, Craig,
silver in his life.
Can we have an adult in the room, please?
John, please back us up here.
I think trophy dodger Levein has. I mean, I can understand why St Johnstone fans will be fed up watching them, and they were well by far the second best side in the second half of this game, but he will keep them up, and I think that is fundamentally from a position where I don't think anyone expected them to. Whether he'll be a long-term solution for St Johnstone,
whether he wants to be either, I think,
but probably, and then Andy Kirk will get the job and be terrible. But the point is, I can understand, because it's not fun to watch. They will grind just about enough points to get over the line.
Very attritional. After
what obviously Stephen McLean was that. Sorry, not Stephen McLean, Callum Davidson. That was what they didn't like about him, was that it was just so boring to watch. And then McLean was less boring and just terrible, like the team. and they looked absolutely doomed. Levein's come in, got some results. Yeah, it's fading a wee bit, but he'll probably get the points for them. But with Motherwell, it'll be a blow for them, because for a game for them to be on top for so long and not win, and they're really
one win in 18.
Yeah, they're just not winning games, and it's like, okay, I mean, okay.
I mean, the recent run isn't that bad, because I think in their last, I wrote this down. Let me see. Yeah, it's 1 win in 18, which is terrible, obviously, but only 3 defeats in 11. And when you're at the bottom, getting a point a game, generally all right. That keeps you up. And they've had some decent draws. They're like draws at Celtic, Hibs and St Mirren in that time as well. And they are, I think, to me it was a big result for Motherwell, because, yeah, they beat Alloa last week. Who cares? Well done. And even then, it made a wee bit hard work of that. But it feels like a big result after losing Beereth, because he's not coming back. He's not Owen Beckinet. He's away to Sturm Graz. And even though it's only a draw, it's a draw away from home, and they're the better team. So it's a performance, kind of both performance and result, because you lose this game, and then it really starts to be panic stations. Do the club have enough to stay up? That's still a major question mark. I think that maybe the subs, the new signings. So Andy Halliday got decent write-up for his performance in Middle Park. Sam Nicholson made an impression coming on and looking very lively. Lennon Miller came on for his first league game since November 1st. He'll be big for them as well. So they're getting bits back, and they're adding bits that will make the team better overall. However, they've lost or sold 3 forwards in January. Now, 2 of them weren't any good, but it literally only leaves them with Theo Bair and Jonathan Abika at this point in time. They've not signed another striker yet, and time is running out. January 29th.
Is it some Slovenian or Slovakian guy or something who's the one that I've seen been linked? Some big, tall guy from somewhere.
Oh, they need another big, tall guy with a beak and bear on their side already, don't they?
But they will get someone in. But yeah, the closer you get to the deadline, the lower the chances of that person you get in being good.
Yes.
Would be the challenge. And they are... I think they've probably, as you say, with these players coming back, if they stay back, they've probably got just enough in that squad, but they will be starting to... I just think, like, not winning when you're talking about that run of draws, and that's fine, but while you've still got that 1 in 18 thing, it's like, even if you just win a game and you're like, oh, it's 2 wins, it's 2 wins, it starts being...
Well, it stops becoming a thing probably more than...
Yeah.
And when you're got someone like Harry Payton missing 2 gilt-edged chances, really, you're just like, at a certain point, I think they'll be fine, because they're just not as bad. Their bottom is significantly higher than Ross County and Livingston's, but we've seen it doesn't take actually that much. It's not beyond the will. You could see them slipping to 11th if this doesn't get arrested, and I think the key to that is, as you said, signing a striker.
To go back to the kind of earlier chat about Levein, so something that is like you say, yeah, St Johnstone fans aren't happy because of the style of football. I think it's more there is an element to that, and I did see them say that there doesn't seem to be any discernible game plan or style when they attack, and that was what I thought was the worst thing about Levine's Hearts teams. Is that in the latter stage, the first Hearts team that he had, it was very easy to tell what the plan of attack was. Get the ball up to mark the V's, and you've got strong runners. You've got either a quick forward alongside him, and like Andy Kirk, or you've got strong runners like Phil Stamp, Paul Hartley, running, kind of getting beyond, and they weren't a bad team to watch. They were direct, but they weren't a bad team to watch because of those players around them. And his second spell at Hearts, which is kind of hard to tell. I mean, Uche was there, but if he wasn't playing, it was like, what are we actually trying to do in this game? What's the attack? What's the plan?
The James Anderson cash to the SFA. Sorry, that was Chris Finn's long-standing joke, but it hadn't come on at that point either. So,
what are you on about? What has this got to do with anything?
Oh no, it's just that there's a way of getting penalties. But it's shite. It's a very hard point. I was like,
we didn't think we got many penalties, but anyway, I'm talking about St Johnstone. I was going to be nice to you today and not bring up the fact that one of the last times you were on a podcast where we kind of did a Premiership roundup, you were very smug about Hearts hiring Naismith and Hibs hiring Nick Montgomery. How'd that work out? Okay, right.
We're not got to conclusion yet. Let's see how it plays out.
Powder dry.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't realise the season finished on the 29th of January.
Okay, fair enough. Right, yeah, so what I was saying is that he is doing things like changing the team when they don't think there's any real need to. So they were quite, I mean, again, Aberdeen, how good are Aberdeen? That's the kind of caveat to throw in here. But they were quite impressive against Aberdeen after like the first half an hour. One thing he did was he changed the kind of shape of the team. They were playing a 3-4-3, changed it in a 3-5-2, and fans really liked the look of Sprangler, Smith and Phillips all starting in the midfield three together. They played what St Johnstone fans were saying, some of their most cohesive football of the entire season. And he doesn't stick with that. He changes it again. He changes it back to a 3-4-3. Max Kucheravi.
What? Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
comes in, starts on the left. He doesn't do anything really. And then instead of maybe going, okay, this isn't working, we're losing a grip of this game, we don't have a grip of this game, let me go back to that midfield three. He brings on Connor Smith for Kucheravi. It still doesn't work out. And then he makes a very weird, so he brings on, he actually had gone 4-4-2 as well, because he had Liam Gordon was forced off in the first half, and you could probably see that the team wasn't working. But again, instead of going to the three at the back before, maybe he doesn't want to do it because he's losing a centre half. But there is options on the bench. Luke Robinson has played on the left of the three before, and he had Tony Gallagher on the bench, so he could have done that, and he could have just changed the team that way. But and then you get to later on in the game, so it's like 10 minutes to go, and Graham Carey comes off for Sprangler. So there's still one each at home against Motherwell. And you're not playing very well. Yeah, maybe that's why he was just kind of showed up like, oh, just let's get out here by a point. But taking off so I could see that he started with what he did because he's maybe thinking, okay, well, that was Aberdeen. This is Motherwell. We're going to be expected to attack a bit more. And as I said when I done the podcast with Joel, I think the three of Sprangler, Smith, and Phillips, I think it's a very good St Johnstone style midfield. The only problem is you're not going to get any goals out of any of them. So it's maybe a lack of goals in the team, and maybe that's why he's starting with Kucheravi, even though he's scored a couple this season, but I don't know how many he's going to get either, but at least he's a more, kind of on paper, in theory, a more creative player, a more dangerous player. But then, at the end, he's taken off Carey, who's probably the one player most likely to score. And so, yeah, I can see why St Johnstone fans are frustrated.
And it's Levine sometimes just doesn't seem to help himself in that regard. He clearly... I think it's clear he probably doesn't rate Sprangler. But, yeah,
it's certainly not as highly as St Johnstone fans do.
Yeah, but the fans do. And so does it really, in a team of beigeness, does it really impact you that much to appease the fans in that regard? Rather than slightly, but again, that's never been Levine's style.
This is a man who brought Ian Black on as a third division player for his Scotland debut for
at Easter Road.
Yeah, yes. I think Craig Levein, you talked about Naismith's kind of personality and how that impacts on him. Craig Levein's personality is not about making supporters happy. But I think he's a pretty good coach. I think he'll do fine. But.
Right, let's move on. We've got both the Celtic and Rangers games. Both of them finished 1-0 to each of the Old Firm. Which one do we want to go to first? Any preference?
No.
Okay, let's go to St Mirren. Paisley, sorry, let's go to Paisley. St Mirren 0, Rangers 1. Dessers scoring early on, and then that was it.
Yeah, I think every report and everyone talking about the game, like they said, it was very breezy, and I think that was a mitigation as to why this game didn't really take off, and that was allegedly the reason behind Hemmings not being able to judge the flight of the ball. But it's hard to tell because on the replay didn't. A
really shit goal to lose for a number of reasons. Hemming just been stuck on his line. He really needs to come out for not on his line, but then stuck out in kind of no man's land. And also, the defence playing a high line and no pressure on the ball, and even playing a high line like that kind of early in the game, you just kind of think like just kind of frustrate Rangers for a while, and then maybe kind of push them up. And I know that's kind of similar style to be up and at them at home against, regardless of who you're playing. But it was just a really frustrating goal to lose. And then St Mirren have chances to get back in the game in the first half. Not so much the second half. Rangers kind of took control of it a lot more, but yeah, there was certainly opportunities for St Mirren to equalise before half time.
They're just, it sums up St Mirren. I think that they are a very competent team. They're very good at lots of things, but when it comes to it and they have to just go that wee extra mile and create a good chance or punish a team for what was definitely a well below par Rangers performance, they can sometimes sometimes not quite have it to, do anything other than like effort the ball over the line. Which is
they're quite blunt, and there's it's like a collective heave will make sure that we get the result, as opposed to none
of the forwards are in form.
A bit of brilliance or something unexpected.
Like nobody going forward for them is in form right now. Like even like if you compare it even as we know them how good they could be, because you can point at them and say, well, they're just not that good, and there is definitely an aspect of that. But if you look at guys like Ayunga's not at his best right now. Celtic's not at his best. McMenamin, for what we saw earlier in the season, is nowhere near that. And then you've also got Sanya. He started off the season very well. He's kind of regressed a bit. Still a better player than he looked last season, but he's still regressed. Same with Mandron. There's just a whole collection of guys who are not firing at this point in time.
And I don't expect James Scott to be the answer either. But you never know. You never know. But
he looked all right towards the end of his Hibs spell, towards the very end.
We scored a hat-trick
very,
in the last game.
Very end.
I remember that game. That game vividly. When he looked a player in a dead rubber.
Robinson obviously got the best out of him that I've seen in his career, because I thought when I saw him play for Motherwell, I thought this boy is very, very good. Like he looked like he had everything to be like a number 9. Like physical, like quick, direct, all the things, and then it's definitely not happened for him. And I think it's a decent enough signing, but obviously there's a difference between going signing and coming on for 20 minutes against Rangers and expecting to suddenly hit the ground running. But
and I think Rangers, you take it and talking about the next game as well. Rangers will be happier in terms of I think their fans all can see things are getting better now. Whether the Celtic decline is enough to make that, I know everyone keeps talking about the title race, but it doesn't feel like a title race, if that makes
I kind of know what you mean, because Rangers still don't look that impressive, and I'll mention this in a second, because I thought Clement in general was a bit weird around this game. But
a weird man.
Yeah, he is a bit. But Celtic, I think the reason why you could certainly say that to me it feels like there is a title race, even though I've still kind of got more faith in the Celtic squad to go with it, is that Celtic just feel there's something weird about Celtic.
The vibes again. Everything is now becoming like a vibes check on Scottish clubs at the moment.
If there was going to be a Celtic collapse this season, where it's like under Lennon and like the COVID season, where they lose like 3 out of 7 games or something like that, I can see that. I can see that happening this season. It's just it shouldn't happen with the level of quality they've got. I think their squad's undoubtedly the best. Undoubtedly better than Rangers, saying best in the leagues. Obvious, like it's undoubtedly better than their biggest rivals, but they're just not really showing it. So, and the longer the season goes on, the more you're having games like the game we'll get to very soon, when they're edging out Ross County at home, and the amount of times at home this season have looked really, really poor. It's like,
and conversely, Rangers are scoring, and Cyril Dessers is getting the goal and looking
better
in a direction.
It's not long after the Duncan game where he scored, but looked horrendous.
Yeah, so it's you got to take your wins where you can get them. But it's hard to say because they scored so early on. But that it did, when watching this, feel like a game that under certain previous managers, maybe St Mirren would have found a way to get back in the game. I don't know, maybe that's harsh, but it felt more the second half, especially felt more contained. Like there was more professionalism in the team. Whether that is long lasting.
I mean, he's certainly Clement is certainly better than Michael Beale. Like,
yes, but I think that has been proven that is not such an achievement.
But it was a bit of a weird. I thought it was a bit of a weird team selection and kind of weird. Like you said before the game, like this isn't going to be pretty. And then he's playing.
But maybe that was a result of the wind. Like maybe he just worked out that it just wasn't going to be.
Come on, like how many times have we seen Rangers? Like I mean, you saw Hearts Dundee getting played in that like swirling wind, and that was a great game.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
But Dujon Sterling wide left. And they showed you on Sports Scene, like, how it hamstrung Rangers because he just always wanted to come inside, so they didn't have the space. Not only did they not have the width on the left, it also meant him coming inside meant that Cantwell didn't have a lot of room to operate as well. So he does that with quite a weirdly kind of negative team. And says after the game that he wanted winners. I don't know if Dujon Sterling has been a proven winner at any point, or Scott Wright is a proven winner, or really anybody in this team. Like apart from Goldson and Tavernier.
Are you sniffing at a League Cup win?
I was going to say they've both got more trophies than Craig Levein.
Proven winners for Rangers. And then they have the few shots on goal for Rangers team this season. So they'll have some decent chances, and then he's going to respond after the game is complaining about the pitch.
The pitch was bad, but nonetheless I mean, I always come back to it. I think we spoke about it in relation to Rangers. Walter Smith put teams out like that all the time and won games. Some in these situations 1-0, and he won a lot of league titles. And I don't. Ultimately, he'll live or die by the games he loses, not the games he wins. So you win a game, you move on. And I think, the same will be true for Celtic when we talk about them. It's like there are weird vibes to Clement that he's clearly, unlike Michael Beale, actually a football manager, which I think.
Half the battle.
It's half the battle, but Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was a football manager as well. Was clearly like he wasn't like a nobody that was brought. He was a coach. He knew what he was doing, and still didn't have it for Rangers at the time. And time will tell with Clement. I think he started all right, but there's still something to me of like needing to prove something by probably getting a big result against Celtic or basically that.
Yeah. But I think that there's also an element of because he's new, we're not also recognising that the guy managing the other team is also a bit weird as well. Like so, I think
he's been less weird this year. Which I
just hearing less.
Let's get on to that this season. Yeah. Celtic won, Ross County 0. But this goes to what I was just saying there. Like Rodgers is less weird this year, and that to me is a warning sign if you're a Celtic fan, because when Rodgers is into something, when he's passionate about something, he comes out with a lot of shite. He lies a lot and he talks a lot of crap and he talks about philosophy all the time. But his teams are good, and Rodgers is being very normal. And if I was a Celtic fan, I'd be very disconcerted with that.
It feels like he's phoning it in.
It does really feel like that. It feels like Celtic are phoning in this season for the most part.
Yeah, and
they're still top of the league. But look at the team though. I just talked about that Rangers team, and then I'm looking at the Celtic team. Like Abada's back now. Like Kyogo, McGregor, O'Reilly, Palma's dropped off a bit recently. We'll talk about his penalty soon. But there's still like so much quality. Carter Vickers, Johnston's good. I mean, there's other aspects of the team which aren't as strong as you would maybe want for Celtic, but still, there's less holes in the Celtic squad than there is in the Rangers one. How is it close?
To me, just like a wee bit of freshness is what you're talking about, like that. I think you just need something that's just a wee bit
complacency. I think is probably setting a little. In terms of not even the Old Firm games this season have not been particularly challenging, and so I think it's not even how all athletes come up with like imaginary haters, like Floyd Mayweather, all you come up with stuff. And Celtic, like, what is Celtic's like enemy or like what motivation at the moment? And it doesn't, they're never going to. It's unlikely that they'll ever get in a position where they can do the 9 again. Like what? And Europe again was disappointing, and
Rangers are changing managers.
So they're in transition. Like we'll sign another couple of players for $3 million, and they'll be because
it does get a feel
like there's no statement of intent at all. Even those years under Dyla and stuff like that, you had elements of like, oh, that's an interesting signing, even if it's not necessarily like. And also there is going to be a period of after the Lord Mayor show because they put so much into Postecoglou. as a manager, and also as is it largely your your personality, but also the transfer policy as well, that you're now reverting back to something that was maybe not as exciting, and it's a bit plain, and like, you know.
I think what possibly underlines it as well is the goalkeeper position, and that goes to the show, because Joe Hart is better than the majority of keepers in the Scottish top flight, but he's undoubtedly at this point in his career not as good as Jack Butland. So now Rangers have definitely got a better goalkeeper than Celtic, and Celtic don't seem to care about that at all.
But the thing about Joe Hart is, fair enough, he's one of the best in the SPFL, but that's not where that ambition should be. Yeah. Is he good enough for a Champions League campaign? And the answer is no. So what are we doing here? Like, that would be my, like, why, like, and I think his contract's up in the summer, and he's even just that lack of like I don't know, like, it's all very, very strange.
And then saying Ross County are watching you guys in the team.
Just like when I saw that Ross County team, and then I saw a goal within a minute, I thought, oh, this is not going to end well today.
We want 10,
but Ross County. It's hard to tell how much Ross County played well.
I'm not going to put much praise on Ross County, because Johnson went to Celtic under the management of Steve McLean earlier in the season and got a 0-0 draw.
Yeah.
So County doing the same. It's not an indication of anything.
And maybe that penalty goes in. The one of the two penalties goes in, and
it looks a lot more.
And then suddenly it's 5-0. Do you know what I mean? It can easily happen. Even if the game doesn't change that much, it's much easier to score a third goal than it is a second goal.
Yes.
But the Ross County, it was weird. We talked about Wickens, and my thought when I saw him in the team last week was, well, they've brought him in on loan. They want to give him a game. They'll get Laidlaw back in for the league games. That hasn't happened. Obviously, he saved 2 penalties. He had a pretty good game, actually. But the goal was not his fault. It was a big, massive deflection.
Such an annoying goal to lose if you're a County fan.
Can I just say, I want a supercut, someone out there, of the disco lights at Celtic Park when it is goals of that nature, like, just because it's just very funny. Like, that's all I can say. Like, it just amuses me.
But the County's team is just weird. It's just like, he is very much just like making a point. It feels like he's making a point. He's bringing in all these shit lower league guys, and he's just picking them. And it's like, I looked at that, even though I've been following the transfers, I looked at that team and I was like, who the fuck is Brandon Keller? Like, it's the first time I've seen him, because then there was a story, it's the first time there's been two British Asians played in the same team in Scotland, because Dan does well. Yeah. There's like an interesting element to that, but I'm like, I don't know who you are. And there was another guy in the team who they just signed as well in the midfield, whose name even escapes me now, but there was 2 or 3. Eli King, who did play against.
And Teddy Jenks back in Scottish football.
At least I knew who Teddy Jenks was. I had high hopes for him when Aberdeen signed him, and then he wasn't very good. But
still only 21. There's time yet.
King was one that they obviously played last week and didn't impress against lower league opposition. So you're kind of worried for him straight away. And then you've got this goalkeeper situation. Loyi Kayina comes in, a bomb scare and a very bad on. Fair enough, Dundee United team last season. He wasn't the reason they went down, but he certainly took part. So there's just all these elements, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, Ross County were not a brilliant team, but they didn't need to be ripped up and started again.
It does feel a bit scorched earth, and I'm not sure what the gain for the club is.
Apart from
like, yeah, I'm not sure what end game it. Like, I'm not sure what Derek Adams is. And this is like some weird revenge for the previous 2, like the times it's got. That doesn't. I don't understand. There's a lot of things happening in this window, but like the appointment of Adams and the way in which he's just being allowed to do this seems so contrary to everything that Roy McGregor and those at Ross County have talked about. And you weren't in that bad a position. Like, again, should never have been appointed in the first place. You weren't in such a bad position with McKay that it requires the scorched earth tactic as well. You're probably with a handful, of good quality signings could probably get yourself out of this problem, but it appears that we're just going to actually just set fire to all of Dingwall.
If I was Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Motherwell, whoever it would be, you would be kind of looking around their squad just now being like, can I can I steal someone that's all right because before they suss him out, can we nick like one of their half decent players for 20 grand just because Adams will kind of want rid of them? And obviously he's had form for doing this because his first spell it was like a whole new team, and if maybe Evangelos Economy was still going to turn up in the next couple of days, but he's done it, but it just felt weird, and I think they are walking their way towards 11th place at the moment.
Yeah. Quite funny to see Rodgers getting a bit shirty and Alistair Johnson as well. Get the booing at the end of the game, which is, I mean, there's an element of self-entitlement there. Let's be honest, but like,
if your team's shit, you can boo. I don't mind it.
But yeah, I think that's the frees are starting to show, I suppose, more than anything, and especially if I get a guy like Johnson who really. His just presence aggravates me.
Vibes, yeah.
I know. Yeah. His presence aggravates me. The fact that he's like getting shirty is a good sign as far as I'm concerned.
Right, I think that'll do us. Duncan, thank you very much.
A pleasure. Sorry for interrupting just once or twice and making nonsense.
It was just that Craig Levine thing. I still don't think I understand.
It made sense in my head, but then yeah.
And thank you, Craig Anderson.
Thank you very much, and I enjoyed my third time in your podcasting studio.
The second time in front of camera.
Perfect, and it won't be the last.
And thank you to everybody for listening. If you would like to hear more from us, then please head over to the Patreon. That's patreon.com/Terrace Podcast. The best way of not only backing the podcast, but also if you want to hear more from us, because there's usually, typically on average, there's 5 podcasts that go up per week on the Patreon throughout the season, and even a few during the summer as well. So if you want the full kind of archive that we've got there, which is just
the Terrace experience,
thousands and thousands of hours of stuff on there, then like I said, patreon.com/Terrace Podcast. You can get a lot of it for £2 a month, and that's obviously an absolute bargain, especially in today's age. But if you want everything, it's £5 a month, and that's pretty fair as well.
Yeah, it's good. And there's stuff that the stuff you get educated on and stuff like that. Like even just the stuff at Ayr United last week with Ali and stuff like that. Like if stuff that you didn't know you were interested in, it's great. I would obviously a shilling for something that
thank you. That was good. Thank you very much, Duncan. You're still slightly, it's not just me. Like it's not just me saying it's good. So
yeah. And I'm amazed that Craig's not taking this opportunity to talk about Ayr United.
I'm not commenting on Ayr United.
He's going to say he's going to watch the YouTube instead.
I hosted the last Ayr United one. I'm a bigger man than that. I can be involved in Ayr United content because they are still in the Championship and they still have not won any trophies. But yes, also these podcasts are indeed, as Craig mentioned, on YouTube. I've been doing some links to the camera there just to make his editing job to decide if he wants to put them in or not. But
like Ross from the Traitors.
Ross from the Traitors. That was what was in my head there. But also John Collins pre-Brazil national anthem 1998. They're the only 2 people in history that have ever winked to a camera. But we are on YouTube. The videos are there for people. I personally don't watch YouTube very much for podcasts, but lots of people do, and they're well edited. They're put together nicely. The clips appear. It's all split up into games. So see if you're like, I've listened to the podcast, but I would like to see what are the guys acting like when they're talking about our game. You can watch that on YouTube.com
and infer hatred towards that club.
I'm sure they will. Some very horrible comments on the YouTube video of one of the podcasts that I did recently with Tony Anderson, but those people have been dealt with, so we'll move on.
They'll never walk again.
Like you took this subtle and you just went, let's not have any of that. Let's imply violence.
Just the image of you battering someone to they couldn't use their legs, which is quite funny.
No comment.
I don't think you're going to like Beers and Mail Part 4. Me and Rob when they asked the question of who you'd like to fight most out of the tennis.
All I'll say is I've got I'm a runner. I do a lot of running, so I'm fit.
Yeah, you certainly are fit.
So wait and see.
And now I think you're connected to the underworld. So
it's always a quiet one, Duncan.
In your leafy suburbs.
Friends in low places. That's what I always say, isn't it?
Right, thank you very much. Oh yeah, one more thing. Please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We would really appreciate that as well. And that'll do us. Thank you very much for listening and join us again soon. Goodbye.